Welcome to the Finance Geeks, a podcast about real financial planning. If you're into numbers, strategies, and building a great planning business, this is your ultimate geeky hangout.
Welcome to Season 4, Episode 4 of the Finance Geeks podcast. Thanks for joining us. My name is Warren Shute, and I'm joined by
Paul Cleworth.
And today we're discussing why smart people make bad money decisions. Ego, overconfidence, and hindsight bias. But before we dive into that thrilling topic, Paul, what have you been up to?
I've been really busy this last couple of weeks since the last episode.
Come on, be honest. What have you been busy doing?
Well, do you know what? Sometimes it's so busy. I don't even. You look back and you think, "What have I got up to? What have I actually achieved this last few weeks?" The most successful thing I did that I'm most pleased about in the last couple of weeks was some plumbing at home. You open the bottom of the underneath the sink. And the water was gushing out everywhere. My wife had just had a hissy fit, and she was like, "Oh no, we got to call a plumber." Or I said, "We got to call a plumber." She said to me, looked at me, and she said, "Right, turn the water off, take all the U-bends out, clean them all out, put them back together." And I was just thinking, I'm not a plumber, I can't do it. And I ended up doing exactly that. Cleaned it all. It was pretty horrible because the water gets stuck in the U-bend, and then just screwed it all in properly with tight, fixed it. 20 minutes later, problem solved. You think you can't do it, and I took that as a big win. From emergency plumber 200 quid to I'd done it myself in 20 minutes.
Yeah, no, I take that. Since moving into the house, I've really got into DIY. I hate DIY, and I hope my wife doesn't listen to this. But I bought myself a new set of drills and screwdrivers and stuff.
All the gear, zero clue.
It makes it so much more fun, though, doesn't it? It's like...
Well, putting up pictures is one thing.
Yeah.
Doing, electrics, plumbing, or woodwork or something, it's a bigger skill set. And you start to do skimming or tiling. I mean, plastering, unless you know what you're doing, it will look a mess. No. It will really look a mess. So other things I've been doing. I was going to say I've been buying Mother's Day gifts, but Catherine has bought my mum some gifts. And my wife Alison has bought my mother gifts, and my wife Alison bought her own gifts, and so she'll get what she wants. And I said, okay, just get that, and I'll just pay you for it. So really pathetic.
No,
she won't listen to this anyway.
No. Okay, you're leading by example. You got to take the boys out. They're going to buy mum something. Make her a card.
I'll get her to make them. I'll get the boys to make her a card.
In bed. It's Mum's Day. It's like
I don't know about you, but I've my mum's still going. I've bought her something and taken her a card. I'm going to see her actually this
You sure you didn't just pay her some money in the bank?
Yeah, there you go.
Just transfer
25 quid Amazon voucher. But I forget sometimes. Previous years, I've forgotten that the mother is my wife to my children, as in I've got to help them do something for Alison. I just totally forget. I just think Mother's Day, I'll get something for my mum. Listen, I've also been at the best Friday, last Friday. Went to St Albans Arena and watched the Banff Mountain Film Festival with Alison. It's a couple of hours, 5 small films with an interval, mountain biking and, skiing and climbing and stuff like that,
so
all outdoorsy stuff.
A short clips, not like an hour and a half film or anything.
So each one's like 20 minutes. Each one's about 15 to 20 minutes, these short films, and they're all sent in. They're brilliant. I mean, I like the outdoors, mountain climbing, and actual rock climbing and skiing and stuff. And they're brilliantly done with GoPros and it's not the sort of stuff you can just download from Netflix. They're really funny and super clever. One of them was kayaking in the somewhere in Africa, middle of nowhere. It was fascinating. So I've been doing that, and I've been parents' evening for the kids. That's been going on. It takes 2 hours, and you have a 5-minute chat with each teacher, and then it just cuts off. You've been there. You remember that?
Been there, done that. Don't want to go back.
Yeah. Professionally, I've been doing appraisals, or I'm preparing for appraisals later this month with my team. End of year tax planning for clients. Reviewing our annual review template, trying to improve it. And we're been doing videos, as you know, and emails to clients about the Iran conflict. So that's been, taking up a bit of time.
And did you strategically time the appraisal to be near tax year end? You thought you'd just put a bit more work in the mix?
I know. We've always done them actually at the end of March, because the company year is the end of March, and it just happens to be the end of tax year as well, of course. But I got ChatGPT to knock me up with all the information it found from SharePoint, the appraisal form for each of my staff members, knowing what it knows about them. So I'm reviewing it to send it to them and say, you fill out your appraisal form, I'll mark it.
Brilliant.
Do you think you deserve a bonus? Yes or no? Yeah, maybe. What percentage? That's not one of the questions. Anyway, what have you been up to briefly? Because I've just hogged the time there.
Bit of DIY around the house and that sort of stuff. Nikki is taking up a new sort of business. We're engineering Nikki out of the business. She never really fell in love with financial planning. So she's kind of going into like a fashion color type of business. So she was working in London last weekend. So went and stayed with her down in Soho House. Never stayed at a Soho House. Really liked it. Really liked it. Looked to do that. Ollie's 21 this weekend. Well, he's actually 21 Monday, but we've got his 21st birthday party on Saturday. He's having a Super Saturday rugby party. Rugby shirts all round, food and everything. All his friends coming over, so that's really good. And we're laying on a big Mother's Day celebration on Mother's Day. So we've got all the mums, my mum, Nikki, and Nikki's mum, and Izzy, Ollie's girlfriend's mum. And
brilliant.
Loads of them. There's about 15 of us. And then fly out to Singapore on Wednesday. So see Bella. I haven't seen her for about 8 weeks.
I thought it was Bali.
She was in Bali. She's now in Australia. She's going to meet us in Singapore, and we're going to go to Vietnam together.
Have you been to Singapore before?
Only flown through. I've never got out the airport. So
amazing.
Yeah. Is it?
Lovely
yeah,
place.
Supposed to be hot. Yeah. Work-wise, Christian's taking more of the client work on. So Christian's meeting clients on his own now. Watching the recordings back and listening to them, it's fantastic. We have a process that he follows to the letter. The meetings are taking less than 2 hours. He's covering everything off. That's going really well. We launched our Chartered Financial Planner Apprenticeship Program, or should I say we're about to launch it. It's all sort of signed off. It's about to go live. So we want to take on a school leaver or a grad to do that. And just agreed some sort of webinars with Presswood. So doing a series of webinars with the Presswood Software Group about doing financial planning and
might be able to squeeze some client work in there. Maybe giving some advice as
every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 10 a.m. I'm there. I'm your man. It's
very good.
A bit like George Michael.
Very good.
You like that
out, Vince.
You like that?
No, I didn't. No. There's some film and song references that I like, but not George Michael ones. Hey,
I think some others 80s classic. It's, hey, anyway, moving on to the main focal point of today's session. Okay, why smart people make bad money decisions. Where are we going with this, Paul? What do you think?
The thing that it leads to straight off is the discussion about the various biases that there are that we're going to talk about, but where they influence people's decisions and their abilities. And I think that the first thing that came to mind for myself was the overconfidence bias, because people that are smart, there's different, isn't there? There's clever and there's intelligent, and I've always sort of differentiated the two. You can be someone who's clever so that you can revise something, learn something, and then regurgitate it. And I think the difference with intelligence is that you can analyze information, you're prepared to learn, you can utilize what you know, but then be willing to change your opinion and take the view of lots of things. So one of the things that one has to learn is what you're good at and what you're not good at. And there's a lot of people that have this overconfidence that the classic one is about driving a car, isn't it? Everybody thinks, all men, 80, 90, 100% of men think they're a better than average driver. And of course, you can't be, better than the average.
Paul.
And not everybody can be, rather.
Everyone tells me I'm an awful driver. I know I'm not a good driver.
You don't even look where you're going when you're driving. You're too busy touching the screen.
Everyone tells me how bad I am. I've kind of got the message. I think with the overconfidence, for me, it's so one thing to remember is these biases are attributes that humans portray, and some people have given them labels. Overconfidence. So what I refer to that is a generalization. I say it's a generalization. So I see it all the time. An entrepreneurial client opens up a business. He does well, thinks I'm a pretty clever guy or girl. I'm going to open another business in a different area and doesn't do so well. And opens up and doesn't do so well. They generalize. They think, oh, I'm really good at business. And actually, they were partly good and they're partly fortunate. They understand that market, but then they generalize and go off into other things and they know they're good. They got this too much confidence in doing it.
Intelligent people fall into that trap because confidence, if you're a confident person, it feels like competence. And it's sort of, you could be very confident thinking that you know the answer, but unless you actually know the answer, you're going to be incompetent and unable to make a really good decision. I mean, let's be honest. Finance in itself is very complicated.
Yeah.
you can Google things, you can research things. You might be really good at researching things. If you spend the time to get both sides, if you like, or you do a full analysis of something, let's say it was, I'm going to buy a car. What are the different ways to do it? So somebody could do the research, look at the different options and make a decision. Or they could shorten that, go to someone who is an expert in, car finance and say, can you just explain these options? And maybe that's a smarter decision, because then someone who already knows about it inside out for years and years will know the pitfalls and the perils and be able to say to you, so what are you looking to do? Oh, right, you're an individual. And they'll gather your background. Are you buying personally or through a business? What's the value of the car? How long do you want to keep it? And they ask you, and then eventually they define that this is the best way, I think, and these are the reasons. Maybe it's a time thing. So you're intelligent, you're doing well for yourself. You then are impatient, and you want to just, let's say, deploy your money into some form of investment. And you've just decided, okay, I've done the research, but I've done it quickly. I'll make a decision. I don't want to pay for advice. Therefore, I'm just gonna do this. And with big amounts of money, it's whatever that means, whether it's 10,000 or 100,000 or more. If you don't get advice about it, you are running the gauntlet a bit. That might backfire because you've not properly taken the time to ask someone who knows.
Yeah, no, I get that. Yeah, or read about it, learned about it yourself, sort of thing.
So what about yourself? We talked a bit about confidence. What other biases do you think that there are that sort of refer to this, why smart people make these bad money decisions?
I think the ego kind of links in with the overconfidence. Does that make sense? It's like saying, I'm successful in my area. I know what I'm doing here. And I see it quite often, particularly with entrepreneurs. You get an entrepreneur coming in, they're successful, they've got the Ferrari or wherever they come in, and they kind of start to tell you how to invest. And you almost have to say, you want to sit this side of the table and listen to me, or what? What's going on? It's that ego of generalization. They feel that they just know both their own profession and your profession, and they try to that competition. They just want to beat the market. That competition sense.
The other thing that happens relative to ego is you speak to a new client, they've made decisions, they've bought a car, they've bought a house, and people attach their identity to those financial decisions. You don't want as an advisor go back to your client and saying, why did you do that, or that was a bad decision, and relive why they've done something, because you're basically insulting them. Yeah. And you do get people who buy assets under ego, whether they work at a certain company. I mean, this one falls into this sort of anchoring bias as well. But we'll come on to that. The idea that you've bought an investment, it's done badly, but admitting, this is part of the ego, admitting that it's actually not done particularly well is like admitting personal failure. And so a lot of people, through that bias, that identity and ego bias, hold on to it, sort of hoping that it'll do well. They refuse to sell, they refuse to double down, or they sometimes do double down on a poor decision, and they ignore the advice that you might be given and that contradicts their view. And so it can prevent rational decision making because it's to do with protecting their pride. It becomes more important than protecting their wealth.
It does, but I think there's, for the financial planners listening, I think there's a good space to allow the relationship and the conversation to be held, to allow the individual to say, yeah, that was a mistake. That wasn't the best move I've done. Yeah. And if they don't, I try and prod it out of them because I want them to acknowledge their errors. Otherwise, they're going to continue to repeat them.
Well, as part of the empathizing with the client and building that rapport, you can also demonstrate humility to the client. Because if you do it first, the client then might open up and say, do you know what? I understand what you're saying. Those 2 buy-to-lets that I bought without any advice or thought, they weren't great in hindsight. We can do something about that. And having that humility to be able to take on board rather than stick to your guns, to be able to want to take advice is it allows them to progress forward from here rather than just, keep that bad asset.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah.
What should we move on to? You got
so loads of others, in all honesty, which are quite interesting. I quite like in line with what's happened over the last year or longer. I like the bias, the recency bias, because people place way too much importance on recent events when they form expectations about the future. And we've had rising markets this last 12 months, it's been a long time since we've had big dips. I mean, obviously we've had dips along the way with the April Liberation Day in 25 and then COVID before that and all of that. But if markets keep rising for several years, you have to, as the advisor, set expectations moving forwards, because, of course, investors will just assume they'll keep rising. And when they fall sharply, people assume the decline will then continue. In terms of the decision making, as the advisor, you're explaining the long term, you're rationalizing behavior, and you're sort of managing the client's behavior to stop them making that silly decision that affects their wealth.
So recency bias is really when they look at the recent past and then extrapolate it out and say that's going to continue going forward into the future. It's and I get that. And I guess as financial planners, sometimes when we articulate our investment proposition, we can be maybe slightly guilty of that, and we have to be mindful to say that the market doesn't always go up. Recency bias is very similar, I think, to hindsight bias.
Yeah.
It's like, when something happens in the past, we say, yeah, I kind of knew that was going to happen, after the event sort of thing, just sort of saying, I was the expert. Do you know what? Hey, put my hands up. I literally had the conversation with Nikki, my wife, today, and saying, I'm a bit silly, really. When I saw what was going on in the Middle East and with Iran and stuff, I just knew oil prices were going to go up. It's just obvious, isn't it, Nick? Come on, babe. We should have just bought that oil ETF and just stocked up the house fuel. Instead, what we did is we waited and bought oil and we paid double for it.
It creates that illusion, doesn't it, hindsight bias, that good investing is sort of easy, when in reality, uncertainty is always present. And you sort of, we get it a lot, even if we tell ourselves, oh, it was obvious the markets would crash. It was obvious that everyone knew techs would boom, or that this would happen or that was happen. But it takes, again, comes down to, for me, to the behavior, the emotion, the humility to actually say, look, understand investing is uncertain. Markets are uncertain in the short term. Long term, if you control what you can, the costs, diversification, asset allocation, all of that, and your behavior, and you do what you can, you'll grow your wealth. Capitalism works, markets move in the right direction, but it gives that false sense that markets are predictable, hindsight bias. And I think it forms into the concept of regret as well. A lot of people, unfortunately, say, oh, I wish that I'd got in there when Bitcoin was at 10,000 or 2,000, or I wish I'd bought Apple shares, 30 years ago. And how does that help? It's irrational to think like that if you're a smart, intelligent person, because you think, well, I can't go back and undo that. I don't have a DeLorean. Great 80s reference there, going 88 miles an hour. Better than any other form of time machine. Yeah.
You're absolutely right. But again, I kind of, maybe I'm a bit unkind to my clients. Sometimes I would sort of use that as a leverage to them and say, hey, look, I often say, the best time to start investing was yesterday. Second best time is today.
Yeah, definitely.
You've just sort of mentioned that stuff now, but I promise you we'll have this conversation in 5-10 years time. We'll be having the same conversation. So let's just get in the market.
Yeah. I think money, I always say money's very emotive. It's a tool to obviously achieve goals and to live the life that you want and so forth. But because there's so much choice, and because there's so many things that it can bring, both positive and negative, those that spend all their money and get into debt can suddenly feel, right, I wish I hadn't done that. And they have this form of regret. As an advisor, most of the time, I think that you're talking openly and frankly about what happens. People then will nod along with assumptions, thinking, yeah, you're probably right that I shouldn't have some of these biases. One of my favorites is anchoring bias. We've got clients that fixate on a specific number as a reference point for decisions. We've got investors that work for a certain company. Let's say it's Tesco, and they buy shares in that company, and then they or they might say, well, I bought this share for £2 a share, and I'm going to wait until I get back what I've paid for it. But the price has got no relevance to the current value of the investment or its future prospects. And I think a lot of people do suffer from that, even, very smart people.
The anchoring that I see the most is when a client's portfolio hits X. Let's say it's $1 million.
Oh, a certain number.
Yeah. Whatever number it is, let's say it's $1 million. They won't take extra money out of that. They'll just want to spend the growth on it. I'm like, what? Anyway, but this is part of the fun. This is what we love about our job. That if we learn this information, we can acknowledge it, and we, mentally aware of it, we can raise these things in conversations like that. Actually, your portfolio being $1 million, 1.1 or 900 makes little difference to your day-to-day living.
I was having a chat with a client of mine yesterday, and I asked him, I said, guess how much your portfolio has gone up as a percentage in the last 12 months? And, nice chap. Obviously, I can't say his name, but he said, oh, 7 or 8%. And I said, it's 17.4% net of all costs and charges. But prior to the Iran, this was yesterday, remember, we've had a little bit of a bounce back. But 3 or 4 days before that, it was 22%. What it made me think about was, okay, I've now got to set the client's expectations in a couple of ways. One, that it's unlikely that we're going to get another 22% or 17% or whatever next year. But also that when you get this extra gain in a year or in a period of time, you've got to not just say, well, I'll just take all of that money I've just made off the table and spend it, because you're accounting for future declines in markets, which there will inevitably be. And so you should say, well, I'm pleased that it's gone up. It makes for annual planning meetings with clients really positive, because I'm saying to them, look, it's gone up loads. Despite the little blip in the last few days, we're still up considerably over the last 12 months. That's good, isn't it? And it's like getting people into a yes mode. That's good, isn't it? They go, oh yeah, it was great. But by the way, don't expect this return moving forwards. Oh no, we should just assume 6-7% moving forwards.
Yeah, the anchoring to a figure without knowing what the return is, or one of the things we don't do the return on. That's probably quite a good thing to do. We ask them how much they think their net worth has increased over the last 12 months. When they're squibbling around spending 50, 100,000 pounds and their net worth's got up 500, for example, we're like, you didn't even know
justify it.
You didn't even know it had gone up that figure. Go and live life. Go and enjoy it. Are there any sort of other biases that you tend to come across or that are important to you?
Definitely. One of the ones that I see more and more, and I don't know whether this is just with, with all kinds of people, because we're focusing on smart people, however you deem that to be. But the one that I find is herd behavior. Humans are sort of naturally influenced by what other people are doing, and everyone seems to be investing in something. It creates this level of FOMO, doesn't it? You do get, oh God, they've got crypto, and I don't have it. Should I have it? I should probably get that. And we saw this during the dot-com boom, during property bubbles, obviously crypto, and I mentioned, and everyone's rushing in. And as soon as that happens, as soon as you start to follow the crowd, almost certainly it's too late, and you risk is at its highest. So you've got to take that off the table to make smart decisions.
That was massively true in the buy-to-let boom, wasn't it? People buying, every Tom, Dick, and Harry was buying a buy-to-let property or a portfolio because everyone thought that was the only way to make money and not being left behind. Did
you do the buy-to-let thing and get involved in properties?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, for a short period of time. Yeah,
and then got rid.
Yeah. It was, I don't know, just never really sort of was for me.
It's the hassle factor. It's because you're lazy, like myself, inherently. You want to, not lazy. Rather, you don't like the grief of it. It's sort of I remember having a number of buy-to-lets previously and a holiday home and stuff, and you think, I want to experience what this is like, so I can talk to my clients about it, about actually how you buy a house, how you put together a property portfolio, and the issues that you face. And then you learn about it. And I've concluded from it that for myself, and I think generally, this is quite a general comment, for the majority of people, certainly higher rate and additional rate taxpayers, it's not really a method of generating a high level of yield from your asset. There's just too many problems with extra surcharge on property purchase, CGT on sale, not good for IHT planning, tax efficiency. I mean, it's so bad now but I got a referral today from a friend of mine, and he's got a chap who had 17 properties and he sold quite a few of them. And you find that when someone's had property all their life, they've then sold it all, they're accounting for the tax, and now they've got cash. At this point, he's now thinking, it was in the email, he said, this client wants to invest a lot of this money for simplicity, but he's worried about the Iran conflict. And I was thinking, this is going to be really tough, actually, because to try and convert someone from property to investing, regardless of how much money they've got, it's a challenge, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. You tend to be a property person as an identity or an equity person as an identity, and it takes an education. And it's hard to change someone's identity because they want it to hold true. They don't want to be wrong. People don't want to be wrong.
Do you find that you've got clients that have what's called loss aversion, So well, it happens to all of us, I suppose. But you've heard that the behavioural science that sort of says, that research that says emotional pain of losing money can be about twice as powerful as the pleasure of gaining it in the first place. Do you find that you've got clients that have experienced that?
Oh yeah, and you only really find out when the markets go down, right?
Yeah.
It's what's Warren Buffett expression? You only understand who's swimming naked until the tide goes out.
Yeah.
So everyone wants to make money, but no one wants to potentially lose money or see their portfolio go down.
Yeah.
So I often will use monetary amount. So again, the client with the £1 million portfolio, we should expect this to go down to about 850,000 in a typical year, right? Judge them.
Yeah, relative to
and then in the extreme time, don't be throwing the baby out the bathwater if it goes down to 500,000 in an extreme period. We've got to stick true to this, because I think a 15% market movement year to year is reasonable, and a 50%, if you look at extreme times, 2000 in the
that's not in a calendar year. That's from peak to trough during.
True. Yeah, it is. Yeah. So in the .com bubble, and then in the financial crisis, just trying to get a gauge of these people, how much it can go down by.
Yeah. When you explain that analogy and that example as an advisor to clients, I tend to explain it like this. I say, look, think of it as with your home. Your home is worth what someone's prepared to pay. And a lot of people just think their home is just not going to fall in value. It's always worth more than they paid for it and so forth. So let's say you've got a home worth £500,000 and the market suggests that the sale price of your property, whether it's on Zoopla or whatever else, has dropped by 15%. And it just means that there's either too much supply or there's too much demand or whatever it is that it's fallen in value. I'd say to them, look, it's not as if you've lost any bricks in your home, is it? You still have the same number of bricks. It's just the value's dropped. In the same way, you're talking about investing. Clients have got a portfolio worth $500,000. It drops by 10%, for example. I'm saying you've not lost any units. It's just the price of each unit has fallen. And as long as you hold on to these units, they'll, on the long term, probably go back up again. It's to try and reduce that anxiety of they think they've made a loss. Well, you only made the loss if you crystallize the loss, if you realize the loss, if you sell it.
Yeah, no, completely. Yeah, absolutely. And that's how we sort of try and sort of say to them, this money's 5 years plus kind of money. So
yeah.
And any other biases that sort of spring to your mind?
The last two that I wanted to cover off are action bias and narrative bias. So action bias, most investors feel uncomfortable doing nothing. And you find that they sort of, especially smart people, believe that when they're very efficient, when they work hard, they believe successful investing requires constant action. You've got to buy, you've got to sell, you've got to react to news, you've got to buy gold, you've got to sell oil or buy oil or whatever. And in reality, you and I know that excessive activity often harms performance, and obviously it costs more. It's called portfolio turnover. So successful investing involves patience, discipline, the ability to sit still. And what is it that Jack Bogle always says? In a crisis, don't just do something, stand there. As opposed to the opposite. Yeah.
I like that.
But in the same way that Warren Buffett says the stock market is a device for transferring money from the impatient to the patient.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
I like your one about the swimming and naked. That was brilliant. I'd read that before.
Yeah, and we give the analogy about a bar of soap. Think of your portfolio as a bar of soap. The more you touch it, the less you're going to have.
Yeah. I used that image in a newsletter once, and I'd ChatGPT knock me up a bar of soap with and it said that on it.
Did you say you had two, or was that the last one?
Yeah, so I got the other one that, again, that will affect both smart and not so smart people, and that is narrative basis. So humans love stories. People read the news all the time. Narratives are easier to understand than complex realities, and it leads investors to sort of believe persuasive stories about companies, industries, and trends. So you get the classic one at the moment is there's an AI bubble, or AI will change everything, or this company is the next Apple, the next unicorn. Oh, property always goes up, doesn't it? And you'll hear a story, and I find that social media is pervasive in this and hugely. I get affected myself. It's very believable. Markets are influenced by thousands of factors, many of which can't be predicted. But a good story doesn't necessarily mean a good investment. So you watch an advert and you're like, God, that's really persuasive. I'm going to get involved in that. I've had this happen to clients, and they hear the story, they want to help, and they then forget to apply reason and rationality to it. And then they invest money in something. I'm like, that just was a complete bag of spanners. I mean, that just evaporated that money. And so that discussion point with clients about allocating their monies, I'm very big on trying to explain, if you're with Transact, you're not actually, your money doesn't matter if Transact go bust. It's actually not with them. They're the custodian. It's in these companies. Oh, the Vanguard and Dimensional, who are they? Oh, right. They're the two of the biggest, the Vanguard, second biggest investment house in the world. But actually, even if they went bust, you don't lose anything. It's in these unit trusts and OICs, these funds that have got 13,000 stocks. I mean, you couldn't spread it further if you tried, in all honesty. But when people's mindset is, I can only see 5 funds. Oh my God, what if one of them goes to zero? I was like, that can't happen. You'd have to have some nuclear holocaust for that fund to go to zero. It's not like buying Royal Bank of Scotland shares in the height of the credit crunch when they went from virtually down 99%. That's one company. This is 13,000.
No, you're right. Yeah, absolutely. Hey, shall we move on to some Q&A? Is there anything else you wanted to say on the?
No, I've got some good Q&As, I think, and more than normal because we want to, pad it out. Oh, we've been going too long already, probably.
So, I wanted to sort of give an example of a smart client making a poor money decision.
Okay.
Now, we look after some very smart clients, I think, far smarter than I am. And one particular couple are very, very clever vets. They're like real, like cutting edge vets level. Not, as in they're not regular first referral vets that you go and see in the local practice. They're sort of people that the vets take their difficult patients to. And they come to me once in the early part of our relationship, and they show me their portfolio, everything else they got, and they've got these properties out in the, I don't even know where they were, Caribbean somewhere, through Harlequin. I'm like, tell me the story behind this. And they just they bought the story, just like you just saying there. They bought the story, it's Caribbean properties, can't go down, guaranteed rent income, the holidaymakers, this, that, and the other. And effectively, they lost all their money. If that wasn't bad enough, a short period of time after that, I had another client come to me and say, hey, Warren, we've heard this about the same property. We would like to buy into this portfolio. We'd like to buy these units. I'm sorry, I'm not doing it. No, we want you to do it. I said, well, look, if you want to do it, you've got to go and do it yourself because I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
They did it and they also lost their money. And I kept it on their net worth statement for probably about another 5 years after that to remind them, not being spiteful, but to remind them that was a silly move. That was a silly move.
It's not ignorance. I think it's lack of time and also the bury in your head, the ostrich syndrome. So people are really smart at one thing. They're a vet, they're a doctor, they're a barrister, a solicitor. They're really good at that profession. It does not mean, as we talked about, that they're good at finance. They're good at making money decisions. Yeah. And the late, great Daniel Kahneman sort of said that we're blind to our blindness. We have very little idea how little we know. And this comes back to the overconfidence thing. You know about one thing, you don't know about another. And I think that level, one has to have huge amounts of humility to realize that you can think you're an expert, you can pretend that you know more than the person down the pub or your friend, but in reality, if you're talking about astrophysics, you probably don't know as much as Brian Cox or Neil Tyson deGrasse. They've done it for 30 years, for whatever, a long time, and you have to be open to those ideas, to listen. And it's interesting, isn't it? People's own experiences reflect on the decisions they make. I mean, I've had clients that say, definitely, no, they didn't send a man to the moon, and there's no way that works. And just because they don't understand the certain aspect, whether it's maths or physics or science or whatever, it doesn't mean that it's wrong. It just means you don't understand it.
From a financial perspective, well, not from a financial, but bringing it back to a financial perspective, as human beings, we are driven by our two emotions, fear and greed.
Yeah.
And it's either the desire for money, greed, I want more, I want to be known as being successful, inverted commas, by being wealthy, or the fear of moving away, the desire to move away from poverty. I need to get away from this. I need to achieve more in my life.
Yeah.
You just got to keep those things. Why are you making these decisions? Are they for the right reason? Are they to become greedier? And I think this is the whole issue with Iran and what's going on in the Middle East. It does, we're we don't want to get political, but so many wars are over fear and greed.
No, that's good. That's one of the brightest things you said, actually. I actually was listening to that last minute. Most of the time I don't listen at all. That's a behavioural thing. It's true that advisors must focus on helping clients with their behaviour, not just the money decisions, but the behaviour. And Morgan Housel, Psychology of Money, same as ever, Art of Spending. Some great books.
You can list all his books.
I'm gonna list all his books before I tell you what he said. He said investing's not about how smart you are; it's about how you behave.
Yeah.
Which I really like. And the classic thing at the moment, which I've included multiple times in newsletters, is the quote from Sir John Templeton: "The 4 most dangerous words in investing. This time it's different."
Yeah,
because you get loads of people that say, right, America, Trump, Iran, this time it's definitely different. Markets are falling. It's going to go. Oil prices are going to do this. Inflation's going to do this. China's going to take over. And you're just thinking, come on, it's not different. There's always something.
We have an investment presentation we give all new clients, and one of the things I try and emphasize to them there is we are physical beings, but we're run by our emotions. And what we really need to do is not manage the portfolio, but manage your emotions. We manage your emotions, we'll get a great outcome.
Yeah. Do you remember the late great Charlie Munger?
Yeah.
I think he was he 99 when he passed?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, I met him.
Confidant. Conciliary to Warren Buffett. He said, knowing what you don't know is more useful than being brilliant.
Well, yeah, we don't know a lot more than we know.
So have we covered that off? I think we have done, haven't we?
I think so. Is that a wrap for today?
I think so, yeah.
Great. I enjoyed that, Paul. I think that was a good one.
Maybe, just maybe, our listeners have learned something. I don't know. I learned something from you there. Yeah, I was surprised at myself. But other than that, we covered off most of the biases and hopefully explain why smart people make bad decisions. But we'll leave that up to the listener to decide.
Brilliant. So that's a wrap for today's session. Thanks for joining the Finance Geeks. Please tune in a couple of weeks for our next episode.
Thanks, guys. Bye now.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Finance Geeks. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave us a 5-star review. Drop your comments and questions on YouTube, and be sure to follow us on social media. Join us next time for more insights to boost your financial planning game.